All right, so we're going to work on problem 3-4, and I open the file. I'm in default English units. We're going to want to draw our truss system. So we have to come up with some sort of coordinates, right? So we know where and what we're doing. So I've just arbitrarily selected this corner here as 0, 0 to make it convenient for creating my coordinates for developing this truss system. And let's see, I want to do it in top view, so I'm looking at X and Y. And options, graphics, hardware, turn off my acceleration. Okay, so back to top. So with that coordinate system, I can draw my elements. So draw line. Make sure that you uncheck use as construction because you want this to be an actual line. And element 1, we're going to say is at 0 in the X and 40 inches in the Y. Off my screen. And then we're going to go 20 inches in the X. We're still 40 in the Y. So I can hit enter. And then we can do element number 2, which is 20 in the X and 0 in the Y. There's my line. Now if I hit escape once, it gets me out of that, and I can start a new line. I don't have to close this, but I'm going to close it so I can do my here. And so you guys can see this. So now if I go back to draw line, I want to start here at this intersection. So I'm going to be at 20 in the X, 40 in the Y, hit enter. And then I need to go to what? 50 in the X and 0 in the Y. And then I can hit escape twice to get out of the line command. So there's my truss system. Now, the problem asks for or specifies different material sizes. There's problem 3-4. Right? So each one of those truss elements is either a different material or a different size. So we have to create a different part so that we can define each of those. If all the element types are the same, but if our element definition, so the square inches of it is different, or the material is different, then we have to create a new part to be able to do that. Okay, so this is asking for elements 1 and 2 are aluminum, which is good. So we could group those together, except for the cross-sectional areas here are different. So we're going to have to create a separate part. And then let's see, number 3. 3 is steel and has a different area. So we can go through and define this first one Let's see, element 1 is 1.5 square inches and it's aluminum. So I'm just going to rename this aluminum 1-5. I mean, it's doing this to all of it right now, but we'll modify that in a minute. I'm going to make it a truss type, because we know that's what we're working with. And then my element definition, asking my cross-sectional area. And for element 1, it's 1.5 square inches, so we're going to say OK. And then my material is aluminum. So my modulus is 10 e to the 6. And you can say OK. So now all 3 elements are defined as trusses. They have an area of 1.5 inches, and the material is aluminum. But that's not quite the case. So we can, let's see, somewhere here, copy all attributes. We should be able to say paste all attributes. So now part 2 has exactly the same attributes as part 1, or element 1. But our element 2 is 1 square inch. So let's rename this, and call it 1, 0. And then I have to go to element definition and change that to 1. And it's still aluminum, so I don't have to modify the material properties. So we're okay there. So let's see, I need to create a third one. So new part, and then just say paste all. Now for the third element, it's steel. So I'm going to rename it, and it was a 1.0 diameter, or excuse me, area. So just a way for me to tell what's what. Still a truss element, still 1 inch, 1 square inch of area, so I don't need to modify. But my property I do need to modify, and I need to change that to 30 instead of 10. Say OK. So now all my element parts are defined as they should be, but over here, see, they're all green, so they're all part of element 1. So if we go to selection and we say line, and I select this line and say edit prop or edit attributes, and then change this to element 2, because from our picture, that's element 2. So we say OK, and then I pick this one because it's element 3, edit attribute, and set it to part 3. They were changing color before, but you can see on the box it says it's part 2, and this one's going to highlight, say it's part 3, and this one will say it's part 1. So now those 3 elements are defined separately with the different parts. Now we can put on the constraints and the loads. So this is constrained on all the on 3 of the elements. Set a general constraint in the X, Y, and Z. So they're all solid. We would typically constrain the Z just because we're in a 2D plane. We want to be in the X, Y. So we would constrain the Z to prevent any translation in that direction. But this is indicating we want solid for all 3 connections. Now, if we select this node, we're going to put 2 forces on it. 8,000 pounds plus in the Y direction. And then we still got that highlighted. And we have minus 4,000 pounds in the X direction. So there's our 2 forces. And now we're ready to